my name is Rochelle Woods, and I'm here today with Derek Williams, the Assistant Director for Outreach of the Office of Financial Aid at University of Michigan. Hi, Derek. Thanks for joining us today.
You're welcome. Thanks for having me.
So, I'm just going to ask you a few questions about financial aid to answer some questions for our students and their families.
All right, sounds good.
So tell me, what types of financial aid are available?
Well, there are 4 different types of financial aid that students are eligible for to pay for their college education. One of them would be grants, which is funding through the federal or state government. And grants are based on the student's ability to pay for their education. It's reserved for students who are unable to pay towards their own educational costs, and these are funds that they do not have to pay back. Next, we have scholarships. Scholarships are also like grants where they don't have to be repaid. However, they differ on the reasons why they are awarded. Some scholarships are based on students' ability to pay, but there's a variety of other reasons why students can receive scholarships as well, such as merit, talent, unique characteristics, special skills, athletics. There's a host of reasons of why students can receive scholarships to pay for their education.
So Derek, I've noticed that a lot of students have a lot of trepidation about particularly work study and student loans. Can you tell me more about work study and also student loans?
Sure. With work study, this is an opportunity for the student to get a job on their college campus. The reason why work study is considered financial aid is because it makes it a little easier for the student to find a job as the government pays a portion of their wages. So employers on college campuses, they're looking for work study students because it's a way for them to save money, and this is a way for the student to gain some valuable experience and put a little bit of money in their pocket to help pay for those indirect expenses while they're in college.
So with work study, students actually have to come to campus and find their own positions?
Yes, work study does not guarantee a student a job. It just means that they're eligible for a work study position. Once they've been awarded work study, the student then is required to come to their college campus and look for a job. They're going to find that there is a wide variety of jobs available with work study. Students can work in their dorms, in the cafeteria, in the library. They can do almost anything on a college campus with a work study position.
Okay. And when they receive the work study funds, how will they be paid for those?
Work study funds are paid directly to the student like any other job. They will receive a check for the hours that they work, and then they're designed for the student to use to pay for the indirect expenses like their books, supplies, and things of that nature.
Okay. And can you tell me a little bit about loans?
The last type of financial aid there are student loans. Student loans are borrowed money that's in the student's name, and it's their responsibility to repay. These are loans that are offered through the federal government that generally have low interest rates and also flexible repayment terms that's going to allow the student to finish their education and then pay for the loan after they're done.
I've noticed from talking to some parents, they have a lot of concerns about their students, particularly because they're young, actually taking out loans to pay for their education.
Very good point. There are a lot of fears and concerns when it comes to student loans. Of course, with a student loan, this is debt that the student is incurring to help pay for their education. But one good thing about student loans is that when they're taking out this debt, there are a lot of programs in place to help the student to repay it, unlike most other forms of debt. So first, the student does not have to make payments while they're in school, at least half time, and then they're going to be required to make payments once they graduate. And depending on the type of loans that they have from the government, they may either have 6 months or 9 months after they graduate, or disenroll for a period of that time before they have to make payments.
What if the student decides to go to graduate school, law school, med school?
Graduate school is an option that many students do pursue after they finish their undergrad degree. As long as the student is in school at least half time, the same options occur where the student is not required to make payments while they're in graduate school.
Okay, and can you tell me a little bit about private loans? I've heard some that there are other loans that exist outside of federally subsidized loans, that there are other types of loans. In what cases would students or families have to take out those types of loans?
Great question. So if a student is looking at any private loans, we will always recommend that they take what's available from the government first, which is available by them completing their FAFSA. When you're looking at private student loans, it is really a competitive market, and they're going to find that there are tons of options available. What we can do as financial aid professionals is sort of guide them on what to look for. We can't necessarily tell them where to get a loan from because there are options almost everywhere, but we just give them a few pointers and things they should look out for, such as interest rates or repayment terms, so they can decide what's going to be the best loan for them.
But generally, you would say you would recommend taking federal federally subsidized loans first?
Absolutely. Take the loans that are available to the student through the FAFSA, the Free Application for Federal Student Aid.
So, you mentioned the FAFSA, the Free Application for Federal Student Aid. How do students and families apply for FAFSA?
The FAFSA is an application that lets institutions know that the student needs help to pay for their education. So when they're filling out the FAFSA, it's going to ask them a variety of questions about their household, such as their parents, siblings, income. It's pretty much trying to determine what can that student and their family contribute towards their own educational costs. Students should always remember that it is their responsibility to pay for their education, but there is help available. And so that's why the FAFSA is looking to answer what can this student and their family contribute towards their own educational costs. That way they can make sure the funds that they're awarding are reserved for the students who need it most.
And what documents do students and their families need to start filling out the FAFSA?
The student and their parent are going to need basic demographic information such as name, address, social security number, date of birth, but they're also going to need the most recent year's financial information, such as their tax return, or maybe they have their W-2s, year-end pay stub, and any asset information that's either in the parent's name or the student's name.
What do you mean assets?
So when it's looking at assets on the FAFSA, it's looking at, again, what resources are available to the student and their family. So cash, checking, savings, investment accounts. Two major assets that are not included on the FAFSA will be the parent's primary home and also any retirement accounts. They do not have to list these assets on their FAFSA.
So what if parents don't want to provide their tax information, or they're reluctant to provide their W-2 for students for the FAFSA?
The financial information is required and the FAFSA cannot be submitted without it. So sometimes parents are a little leery of providing their detailed financial information online, but keep in mind this is a government website that is encrypted and it is highly secure, so the information is protected. Now, the parent is either going to need their tax return, that's what makes it a little bit easier to fill out your taxes, or if they have some other documents like a W-2 or a year-end pay stub, they can use that information as well.
So that means that students cannot apply for financial aid without their parents' tax or financial information. But what if the student's trying to file as an independent?
That's an excellent question, and you're asking pretty much about an independent student versus a dependent student. A dependent student is a student that requires their parental information on the FAFSA. The majority of entering freshmen, first-year students are considered dependent students and therefore need their parents' information to be submitted. There are a few exceptions. The government is very strict on who they consider an independent student, which is a student who does not need their parental information. And some of the examples are if the student is married when they fill out their FAFSA, if they're going to graduate school, so they've already completed their undergraduate degree, if the student is a veteran, or if they were a ward of the court. There is a dependency section on the FAFSA which is going to ask them a variety of questions, and if they check yes to any one of those questions, they may be considered an independent student. However, the institution that they're applying to is going to follow up with them for more information.
Is there a deadline to apply for the FAFSA?
There is a deadline. Now, each institution that the student is applying to is going to have their own deadline, but the state of Michigan's deadline is March 1st, and that is a great target date to go by. So I would recommend that every student have their FAFSA submitted by March 1st.
And what will happen if the FAFSA is not submitted by the March 1st deadline?
Well, it depends on their institution to see what their deadline date is. Sometimes it's a little bit later, but we don't want to wait until the last minute. We want to get our information in as soon as possible, and that's the reason why March 1st is a great date to go by.
So if the student submits their information later, could they lose certain types of financial aid? Could they run out?
They do run the risk of not receiving all the aid they were eligible for. When you're looking to fill out your FAFSA, you may see that you have two options, FAFSA.gov or FAFSA.com. Gov is the correct website they want to go to. FAFSA.com is a website that charges students and their families to complete their FAFSA. The FAFSA stands for Free Application for Federal Student Aid, so you know you're in the wrong place. Gov stands for government, that's how you know you're in the right spot.
So it's www.fafsa.ed.gov. And is there anything else you think our students and parents need to know?
Definitely. Students should be looking for scholarships the entire time they're going through this college admissions process. And that's a mistake that a lot of students make. Some students will wait until they get accepted to college and then start looking for scholarships because it becomes real to them of how they're going to pay for it. They want to make sure they're looking for scholarships independent of the school that they're looking to go to. With most scholarships, it does not matter where the student's going to school. All they have to do is let the awarding organization know which school they are attending, and then they will send the information directly to the institution.
Thank you so much for being here with us today, Derek, and providing us all this great information.
You're very welcome. It was a pleasure.